How have you seen a person's life be ruined in a single day? When I was in EMT school we were told about a paramedic student, instructor was a paramedic as well, who observed a stabbing call. They arrive at the bar and see a dude with a knife in his abdomen. Medic student takes lead and pulls the knife out, something you never do as I'm sure you know. Senior medic loses his effing mind at this dumbass, asking him what the F he was thinking. Student freaks out and, you guessed it, puts the effing knife back in. The patient died as a result. Student lost any chance of having a good job, not even just in EMS, and was charged with the death of the patient. Might have been manslaughter, I don't remember. His entire life was ruined because he freaked out and made a mistake on a call. Not a rookie mistake or a common slip up, but in about half a minute he ruined his life. Holy shit. Also the fact the series of events was 1. Man stabbed 2. Thank God EMS is here 3. Man stabbed again. What are you going to do? Stab me again. Man stabbed twice. Watched a kid get an underage alcohol violation. Wouldn't normally be a life ruiner, but he and I were both college students at a university that had been on the news a lot for the drinking/party culture. The culture has been the same since the 70s, but they didn't like the bad press, so they cracked down. Like 2 months before this happened they instituted a new policy. It used to be that you would deal with the legal implications, then they would make you go to an alcohol education program, and you wouldn't be able to study abroad. Now, they suspend you for the rest of the semester, make you move out if you live on campus, and they cancel any financial aid the school is providing. I didn't know him well, but I do know that he, like me, had student loans on top of a generous financial aid package, and because of the aid program we were in, it's unlikely he could afford to come back without the financial aid package from the school. Man came in to rob the bar I was drinking in. Bartender told him to get effed. Man shot him twice in the crotch and walked out. Hopefully he missed anything too important. Well, it was answering how their life got ruined in a single day, so that gives us a clue, lol. We were standing on a downtown corner watching 4th of July parade when we saw the parents of one of the players on a soccer team I coached talk to someone and began running like hell through the crowd with panic-stricken faces. Someone came to our door later and told us the Matt, their 10-year-old son, had jumped off a float to get some candy thrown by someone on another float and had tripped. The float he was on ran over his head, killing him. Our son was on the same float and hadn't gotten home yet. One of the most depressing moment in my life. The parents were never the same. The people on floats in our town never threw candy again. I think of Matt every 4th of July. A similar thing happened in my town probably 15 years ago. Ever since they banned throwing candy. My friend's husband produced and consumed child porn, including some photos of their children and nephews. She found out when DHS raided their apartment. It tore her life apart. She's doing well now, though. Divorced, obviously, and he no longer has any parental rights. She's still struggling to help her kids process the whole thing. My friend was getting ready for work when the FBI came with a search warrant and took her husband's PC. There was child porn, and he swore he had no idea. He had gotten a bunch of porn and that was just apparently included. She believed him and stood up for him. Then they showed her a clip from their guest shower of her young niece and his dumbass face is at the start as he adjusts the focus. Federal prison 28 months. One day during my junior year in high school, back in the 1980s, I came downstairs on a Saturday morning and my mom asked me, "Do you know Bob Johnson?" Asterisk. I said yeah. I sit next to him in English. She turned the local newspaper around and there was Bob on the front page in handcuffs. He had murdered his dad and tried to cover it up. Apparently his dad had been raping him for years, and Bob finally had enough. Shot his dad in the head with a .22 while he slept. Fortunately the courts were lenient. They gave him a new identity, moved him out to somewhere in the Midwest, and gave him counseling. I guess this one day ruined his dad's life and saved his own. I saw him on Facebook a couple of years ago. He's using his real name, is married with kids, and working as a driver for one of the big parcel delivery services. I'm so glad his life turned out pretty normal. Asterisk, not his real name. My neighbor knocked on the front door early one morning. We'd never met. He introduced himself and wanted me to know why there might be a lot of cars parked in front of the house. All 3 of his children had died in a car accident the night before. I've been reading these comments for a couple of hours now. This is the one that hit me in the gut. This man has lost everything and still being considerate of his neighbors. A girl in my class got caught with a thermos full of vodka, and when the teacher caught her, she got sent to the principal's office. Well, when the principal asked her why she was drinking, the girl told him that she had been sleeping with the school resource officer. Dude was a cop stationed at the school having sex with a 10th grader. Got dragged out of the school by officers that worked alongside him. At the court hearing they found out he was having sex with 2 more girls at the school. His wife and 2 kids were in the courtroom to support him because he told them he was innocent. That kinda caved when one of the girls had a video of the 2 of them having sex. Our former SRO is now dating a former student who is the same age as me. We graduated in 2015. He left his wife and kids for her. We all shuddered when we remembered how often she was in his office during the school day, having lunch, hanging out, whatever. When I was a kid I lived in an apartment complex. One of the families had 3 young kids. One day the parents needed to run some errands, so they hired a babysitter to watch the kids. The babysitter fell asleep, and one of the kids started playing with some matches. The parents came home to huge billowing clouds of smoke and fire coming from all the windows. All 3 kids and the babysitter died. They were only gone for about an hour. I didn't know my biological father. He remarried after my mother dumped him and had 3 kids with his new wife. When the oldest was 12, BO dad and wife left her in charge and went out to the movies or something and came back to a house in flames and 3 dead daughters. When I finally met him decades later, he told me that they smelled gas in the house that morning but didn't do anything about it. So he had to live with that. Not my personal experience, but a national news story. A van full of college students got into an accident and most of them died, but one girl survived with major injuries. She had facial trauma and was hospitalized for weeks. She kept repeating another girl's name as she was recovering. Turns out, she was saying her own name. She and another similarly built, same hair and eye-colored female passenger were mistakenly identified for each other in the aftermath of the crash. Her family had a funeral for her, and the other girl's family were the ones at her bedside before the misidentification was realized. I cannot even imagine the suffering of thinking your daughter was alive for weeks and then learning she'd been dead all along, or having a funeral for a child who was actually alive and you didn't know. Have a friend whose boss got into an ugly car accident a week ago. Today she was officially told she's paralyzed from the waist down. She was also notified today that her husband died, non-car accident related. I don't know exactly why he passed, but to go from a happy life with your soulmate to not being able to walk and have your life partner is something I can't imagine recovering soon from. That's literally the stuff of my nightmares. When I was about 13 I was talking with my best friend at a playground on a hill. Suddenly this lady comes racing down on her bike. She's not wearing a helmet, which was unfortunate because her bike slipped from underneath her and she goes flying, smacks her head into a corner. I was too young to know this at the time, but I'm almost certain she died instantly. Wear a helmet. My daily commute takes me past a local skate park. Nobody wears a helmet, let alone any other kind of protection. I can't wrap my head around it. Do people think they look cool or tough because they don't wear a helmet? When I was growing up, a kid on my street fell off his longboard backwards and cracked his skull open. Months of recovery, if not years. Coworker got caught stealing and got fired. He went home and told his wife, and apparently she had enough and left him and took the kids. Police found him the next morning in the woods deceased. I saw a man's life just crumble in less than 24 hours. Edit. Okay, for some context, when I say steal, I mean close to $100,000 in precious metals from a cushy federal government job. Edit 2. He was going to be arrested and knew it. Also, he killed himself for everyone asking. I grew up best friends with my sister, and one day she didn't come home from work. I was 16 at the time. She was 22. I heard my parents start to rumble around the house turning the lights on, and I could hear more commotion and panic. The cops had called our house cause they found my sister's car damaged on a street in the middle of a neighborhood with the driver's side door still open, and they found one of her shoes was in the middle of the street the next morning. Still no sister. She worked as a bartender. She left work that night and some guy followed her, sideswiped her car, and when she got out to swap insurance he kidnapped her and put her in his truck and drove off, and that night continued to rape and abuse her and held her captive through the night and into the next day. My sister managed to escape that next day and run to the nearest house, banging on the doors. The home owners let my sister in and called 911. They could tell she had been beaten and attacked. She was taken to the hospital, which is when we got the phone call where she was. She had 2 broken ribs. Her face was nearly black and blue, both black eyes, and scratches all over her body. After that I've never had my sister back. She survived the attack, but she suffers horrible anxiety and panic attacks. She can't go out in public alone. She drinks heavily and is terrified to move out of my mom's and live alone. IDK. I just used to look up to her and we would laugh and watch movies and bounce on the trampoline, and she would drive me to try local food chains and we would listen to music, and ever since I've never had my big sister back. I'll always love her, but it breaks my heart. In one day her life changed for the worst. This is so sad. I'm sorry that happened. Like and sub please.